Okay. It says it's recording.
Cool. We're on the record.
Okay. Awesome. And everybody can hear me. Okay. This is cool. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. All right. So welcome to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs Podcast. I am interviewing Shaan. How do you pronounce your name, Shaan? Your last name?
It's Shaan Puri.
Puri.
Yes.
Shaan Puri. Okay, we're interviewing the CEO of Blab, Shaan Puri. And Shaan Puri is a co-founder of Blab. He's also a former CEO of Monkey Inferno, an idea lab based in San Francisco. Before that, he had a winding path of award-winning and money-losing startups, from sushi restaurants to biotech ventures. This guy is brilliant. Welcome to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs, Shaan Puri.
It's good to be here, Ethan. Let's do it.
Let's do this. Yes, this is an awesome platform. Okay, so basically, in the beginning, I want you to tell everybody where you're from and how you got started in entrepreneurship, other than your company now, Blab, but when you first got started in entrepreneurship and those other ventures that you started out.
Sure. So I know you thought that was an easy question, but for me, that's a little bit of a hard one as far as where I started with this, or where I'm from, because I've moved around my whole life. I started off. I lived I was born in Oklahoma, moved to Colorado, Texas, and then eventually Beijing, China is where I finished high school. I went to Duke University, and then I moved around from the UK, Jakarta, Australia, and now here in San Francisco. So traveled around quite a bit. Was very fortunate that I got to do so and live in a bunch of different places. And my path to entrepreneurship was not straightforward nor obvious. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I was planning on going into sports medicine all the way through college. I took my MCATs. I was ready to go to med school, and then I had that little itch. And the itch wasn't to become an entrepreneur. The itch was just an idea that as I bounced around certain people, I couldn't find a reason not to try it. And we entered our idea for a business, which was just it was to create the Chipotle of sushi. So like the Chipotle restaurants, we wanted to do that for sushi. And we partnered with a Food Network chef, and we entered it into our school's business plan competition just as kind of honestly a joke. I mean, everybody who we told about our sushi idea, they thought it was ridiculous, and they thought, okay, well, yeah, you're going to go to med school, so it's not actually going to happen. But we won the business plan competition. We were the first undergrads to ever win. We were the first non-technology business to ever win in 10 years, and we won a bunch of money, and we got a bunch of advisors, so we felt really important. And when you're young and you're doing your first venture, a lot of that external validation really, really feels like it matters. So that got me off the track of med school and into the path of entrepreneurship.
Wow, that is amazing. And what inspired you to start into entrepreneurship?
Well, I was in a class. I was taking classes at Duke my whole time I was there. Like I said, I was pre-med, so I was taking math and physics and chemistry and biology. And I got so tired of taking those classes, I decided my senior year, I said, me and my two friends, we had never taken a class together because they were in different fields. And I was tired of taking the really difficult lab classes that I was taking. And I said, I want to take the easiest class available on campus. Like, show me the easiest class that we have. I want to take that one. And that class was called Getting Rich. And so I enrolled in Getting Rich. And this thing had I don't know if you've ever heard of the website ratemyprofessor.com, but it had her ratings were 5 out of 5 on every category. And so I took the class, and the class was really just a personal finance class. And every other class, she would invite in a speaker who was somebody doing something interesting. So we had the VP of JP Morgan come in. We had hedge fund people come in. We had people who started T-shirt companies come in. We had people who had failed, people who had succeeded. And they just came and told their story. And I mean, just like you have a podcast for entrepreneurs to tell their story, that's a very, very powerful thing. So for me, hearing that people kind of stumbled and took a little bit of a off the beaten path route, but had a very interesting life and got where they wanted to go eventually. They didn't know where they were going originally. They didn't know how to get there. And just hearing them talk, I could tell they weren't necessarily way smarter than me or had some secret advantage that I didn't have. Those same opportunities were available to me. So the question kind of came out in my head where it said, why not me and why not now? And that was the number one thing I took away from that class, and that made me go for it.
Okay, great. So, Shaan, what does the first 60 minutes of your day look like as an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a great question, because that is the number one thing I have as a work in progress. So I used to wake up late. I used to check my phone. I used to fiddle around on my phone, checking all my notifications on different sites for the first, 25 minutes while I'm in bed, exhausted. And then I'm even later, and then I get up and I shower and I go to work. And I was just like, man, I'm starting every day with a loss, right? I'm starting every day behind. I'm checking notifications about what other people want from me. I'm late, I'm tired, I'm whatever. And so I was lucky that I went to a Tony Robbins event. And Tony Robbins has a set of strategies for how you can change your state like that, right? How you can get, you're not tired. You're not a tired person. You're feeling tired. And so how do you change your feeling? How do you change your mindset? How do you wake your body and your brain up in a different way? And so now my morning routine is totally different. I try to wake up early. I try to make myself a morning person. So I try to wake up at 6. And then within the first 5 minutes, I have music going. I'm up. I'm either exercising or dancing. So something that's really physical, that's like totally changes my whole attitude in the morning. Like a shower usually wakes people up. It's another way to change your state, right? You're putting hot or cold water right on your body, right on your face. That's a way to change your state. So I do this. I do this set of exercises, and I'll share it with you guys because I think it's really important. Which is Tony Robbins has this phrase, which he goes, he has a 10-minute routine, and he goes, if you don't have 10 minutes, you don't have a life. And I like that, because every other morning routine I'd ever had would fade eventually, because I wouldn't always be able to carve out the hour I needed to go to the gym or the hour I needed to do X, Y, and Z. But this 10-minute routine I've been able to stick to, which is a set of breathing exercises for 3 minutes, because breathing is a quick way to change your state. Getting in a mindset of gratitude, because being grateful is one of the most powerful emotions you can have. It's impossible to be angry and grateful at the same time, or sad and grateful, or stressed and grateful at the same time. So I really hone in on little moments of yesterday or today that I'm really grateful for. And the last thing is pure focus. So what's the one thing that I want to accomplish today? And this is before I've checked any email or any notifications. What's the one thing that I need to get done today? Maybe it's just helping somebody else. Maybe it's turning something around in my business. Maybe it's sticking to something fitness-wise or health-wise. And I get super clear on that one thing. And that 10 minutes totally has changed my life, honestly.
Well, in the morning time, you basically, when you get up, you command your day, you command your morning, and you control it by the first 60 minutes of your day. And I've heard Tony Robbins speak on that a lot. Let me ask you this question. What is one of the biggest obstacles that you've had in your entrepreneur journey, and how did you overcome it?
I think, honestly, okay, so entrepreneurship by definition is a series of obstacles. And your whole, how good or how bad you are as an entrepreneur is how good or bad you are at identifying and strategizing and being determined to go through all those obstacles. So I would say that each little one would not be something that I can really call out and say, man, that's been so tough. I think the toughest thing has been that the odds are stacked against you, right? The numbers are stacked against you. So how do you keep an unshakable confidence that, I can do this, that, I'm making correct decisions, even if the outcome doesn't always go your way. You trust the decisions, not be results oriented as far as, if something good happens, you don't necessarily take credit for it. If something bad happens, you don't blame yourself totally for it. You just try to make better and better decisions over time and increase the expected value of, what should I get out of this decision? Is this what result should I get out of this? And over time, those odds even out. So I guess the hardest thing is how do I continue to believe that I'm doing the right things, that I can be the best in the world at what I'm trying to do before I have that external validation, before the media tells me, before my company gets bought for a bunch of money, or all those things where you say, look, I can point to that on my track record. Because you got to carry yourself like a champion before you are a champion.
Yes, you do. And that's great advice there. Well, let's take a break and hear a word from our sponsor. And when we come back, we're going to continue talking to Shaan, who is the co-founder and CEO of Blab. We'll be right back. Doing great, Shaan.
All right, sounds good.
This is so cool of a platform here. My computer's just a little slow, and I'm trying to, it's not like, it looks like it's like maybe a second or two off.
Yeah, your video's lagging a little bit. I think maybe your computer's a little slow.
Okay.
But I hear you crystal clear.
Okay.
So
Awesome. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan J. Harris, and today we have the CEO of Blab on the podcast, Shaan. Welcome back, Shaan.
Yeah, good to be here.
Okay, you are the CEO of Blab. Tell us what Blab is and give us some insight on this great, great platform.
Cool. So Blab is brand new and probably best described as a little bit of a social experiment that's starting to work. So we built a conversation platform. We took something that was always closed doors, like a Skype call or a FaceTime call or a Google Hangout. And what we're trying to do is open it up. So this conversation that we're having right now, there are people tuning in live. There have been 77 people so far through this conversation that have tuned in to watch and listen to what we're talking about. And I think that what that does is it lets you open up the sharing of ideas, right? Ethan, you're a great guy. And as we share ideas here, there's people in the crowd, people who are listening, just like in a podcast, who are taking bits of that and applying it to their day-to-day life. Maybe it's inspiration, maybe it's strategy, maybe it's just entertainment. But there are people who are tuning in who get really affected by that. So Blab is, in my opinion, the best conversation platform on the internet. So people come together, 2 to 4 people, and they talk about the things that they are overly obsessed with, the things that they care a little bit too much about. That might be their sports team, it might be finance, it might be technology, or in this case, self-improvement and entrepreneurship. And as a few people carry a conversation, there's a crowd listening into it and actually engaging back with it. So while we're talking, people are commenting live, and we can use that to actually shift our conversation. While we're talking, people can give us what we call feels, which are sort of, it's like a like button on steroids. And you can just see when the crowd, what you're saying is resonating with people, because you'll see them giving you these feels while you're talking. And that's a really powerful, immediate form of feedback. So we're a conversation platform that's trying to honestly be sort of like a modern day version of podcasting.
Okay, great. And when do you think that Blab is going to be ready to be an app or be utilized on iPhones and Android devices?
Yeah, so we actually already have an app. It's not in the store yet because we're in beta. It's pending approval right now by the Apple gods, and maybe by the time this podcast is out, it'll be in the store. So you just search for Blab. But we have thousands and thousands of people using it on their iPhone every day. So this thing is built to be mobile. Desktop is great, and there's, we want there to be no difference between the two. You should be able to seamlessly hand off between the two.
Okay. What are some of the challenges that you have with Blab that your customers are complaining about? Some of the challenges.
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Our users, the only thing they complain about is they want more. So all the ideas we have in our head and that we share pretty transparently with the community, they want those ideas now. And so they want us to stretch the boundaries of time and space with our development team here to make it happen. And we're trying. But in general, I think the biggest challenge for us is let's grow this network, right? Like any platform at the start, by definition, it's going to start small. And we got a really good thing going. We got a really strong community, tons of support, and also like interesting people, right? Like you can have a conversation platform where everybody just comes on and fights and trolls each other, or nobody's really adding value. And then that deters intelligent, inspired, positive people from joining in because they don't want to join that environment. So we wanted to create a good environment that would attract more like-minded, positive thinking, intelligent, interesting people onto the platform. So that's kind of a limiting thing for growth because you got to build it right, not just build it fast. But we also got to build fast because size is what matters for businesses like ours. So we're going to have to add more and more people, figure out how to grow when competition is going to get very, very tough as people see what we're doing here.
Okay, and as you're growing Blab, tell me, where do you see yourself in the next 10 to 15 years with Blab?
10 to 15 years, honestly, I think this thing's going to grow to the point where blabbing will be bigger than blogging. And I say that a lot, and people get a little confused, like, what does this have to do with blogging? But blogging is a medium. It's a form of exchanging ideas, right? I take an idea that's in my head and I get it out. I push a button and I publish it to the world. And Blab does the same thing, right? I have ideas in my head. I push a button and I broadcast it to the world. In this case, and I didn't need the TV. I didn't need a TV station to hire me. I didn't need a radio station to hire me in order to share my thoughts. Anybody, anywhere can share their thoughts through something so simple, which is conversation, right? It's very easy for me to have a conversation with you because you're asking questions and we answer and we trade stories and ideas. And that's, to me, a lot easier than writing a blog post or writing a book or doing some of the other forms that you have out there. So I see blabbing being the dominant way people share and transact ideas in the end.
Okay, awesome. And let me ask you this, as an entrepreneur, what business books or entrepreneur books you have read that you can refer to us that basically inspired and motivated you?
Sure. So a couple that come to mind right off the bat, reading The 4-Hour Workweek was pretty transformative for me because, there's a lot in The 4-Hour Workweek that's just marketing, and I think Tim did a great job with that. But the mentality that you should not be trading your hours for dollars is important for me. So I made that commitment a long time ago. Yes. I will not trade my hours for dollars. And just making that commitment meant I had to find a different way. The second thing would be the lean startup, which was cool. If you're in the business of trading ideas for dollars, and that's how you're going to earn your income, then you better make sure that your ideas are something that the market wants, something that anybody eventually would pay for or use, that people would want the thing you build. And the lean startup is a set of processes that makes it easier and easier for you to find ideas that are actually things that people want, and what you build is worth it in that sense. So lean startup, 4-Hour Workweek. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins because I think this game is mostly psychological, maybe 80% psychology or personal psychology, and 20% strategy. Yes. So I think that's been pretty informative, and I can't think of any others off the top of my head. Rework is another book I love, which is a very, very simple book written by the guys who started 37 Signals and now Basecamp. And the reason I like that book is it's just every chapter is just one page. So you can open up that book. You don't have to be reading a book because we're all busy, but you can just open up that book to any one chapter and take one principle out of it, and it's one page long. So I love Rework for that reason.
Okay, and a guy on here commented, he asked, his name is Me Chillin'. He said, "What did you do before Blab? Right before you got into Blab, what was you doing?"
Right. So before Blab, I was running, and you can see where I'm sitting right now. This is our incubator. It's called Monkey Inferno. It's a place in San Francisco, and the premise of Monkey Inferno was pretty simple and actually pretty interesting. There's not many things like this in the world that exist. So Monkey Inferno was a bet on people first and ideas second. So our founder, his name is Michael Birch, and his wife Xochi Birch, they had this idea, which was, what if we hired a team of people that we believed in, great executors in design, development, product, business, and we paid them and put them all together, and then we came up with multiple startup ideas at once. So we would with our team of 20, we would be working on 3 or 4 startup ideas at any one time in parallel entrepreneurship. So as an entrepreneur, you have a portfolio, almost like investors get the benefit of a portfolio where they have multiple bets going at once. As an entrepreneur, you're getting that benefit. It was, of course, like crazy chaos, and we had to really, learn fast. But at the same time, it was a really, really awesome opportunity. So I joined Monkey Inferno as a product manager, as I was sort of the only non-technical person. And fortunately and surprisingly, a few months later, Michael, who was the CEO and founder and investor, he's the guy who bankrolls the whole thing, he named me CEO. So he gave me his job, essentially. And so then I was running the lab. And out of that lab came Blab.
Oh, wow. Okay. And another question from the comment section. How many employees does Blab have?
So I think there's 12 of us in-house here. And so mostly developers, even our designers can code. So I'm really the only untalented person in the office. Sometimes it's just inspiring. I look around and I'm like, man, I cannot believe the talent that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis, because what good is an idea if there's nobody to turn it into reality? When you see an idea go from something in your head to something on the screen in sometimes just a matter of a couple minutes or hours, that's just unbelievably powerful.
Okay, another question coming from the comments. This is good. This is awesome. Did you have any conversations with any of the big guys from Facebook or Google or Twitter about Blab, and what do they think of it if you did?
Sure. So I can't say too much. I will say you might see some people from other companies popping into Blabs. They're here. They're checking it out. We really haven't talked to them because there's no need to talk to them. So we do our own thing. We're a startup. Most startups get completely ignored for a long time until they're successful, and I think it's no different for us. I think you first look at it and you kind of think, oh, that's a little bit strange. People are just talking in public. Isn't there who would want to do that? And some people really get the idea, but for us, I take more meetings with users than I do with other tech companies, because they don't really have anything to offer me, whereas users do.
Okay, all right. And to be more productive, what productive apps do you utilize to be more productive?
So I'm not a huge productivity fiend. I actually think that takes you down a kind of the wrong path. So most productivity apps that I see, they focus on efficiency. So you have this amount of time. How many different tasks did you complete, or did you complete all the tasks on your to-do list? That type of thing. I actually think that's sort of the wrong approach. My to-do list almost every day has one item on it. So I have one thing to do that day, and it's just an important thing. And maybe there's lots of subtasks within it, but that's one mission I need to accomplish that day, because I go for effect, not efficiency. So I think I would rather spend less hours in a day and do the most impactful thing than do as many little things as I can that day. So I don't use a to-do list app because I have one sticky note with my one important thing of the day on it, right? And I just get clear on that at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
So I don't use a ton of different productivity tools. I would say the closest thing is Slack, which is just a way I communicate with my team really, pretty efficiently there.
Yes, Slack is a great app there. What is one of the well, I already asked you that question. I'm sorry. I'm still new to this video and asking questions and being on video too.
No worries. I threw a curveball at you. I said, if we're going to do this, let's do it right, man. Let's do it on the platform.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but we are doing it. We're doing it. So great. Let me see here. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll be right back. And we're going to continue talking to the CEO, Shaan, of Team Blab. We'll be right back. Here's a word from our sponsor. All right, I have a few more questions and we'll wrap this thing up. I really appreciate your time and everything, and even doing it on this platform is great. It's just that my feed is just so weird. It's like 2 or 3 seconds slow, and I can hear you. Well, there is a like a second, a second or two there where it's paused or muted or something. Then you come in. So, all right. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Ethan J. Harris, and today we have none other than the CEO, Shaan Puri. Say your last name again?
Shaan Puri.
Shaan Puri. Shaan, we have the CEO of Blab, Shaan Puri, on the podcast today. Welcome back, Shaan.
It's good to be here. It's part 3. This is where the interview gets real. That's what I've heard.
This is where it gets real. Awesome. Well, it has been a great, interesting interview. And let me ask you, who are some of, and I know we talked about Tony Robbins, but who are some of your personal mentors that mentored you and you took advice from as an entrepreneur?
Sure. So there was a guy named John Prendergast out in Boston, and I have a phrase which is when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and that's very much how this went down. John, I've probably only met John 2 or 3 times, traded 2 or 3 emails, and but each one of those was so impactful and totally, gave me that slight 2-degree shift in my strategy that I needed. And so John was incredibly impactful and also really believed in us. He put out a blog post one time that said, I've met a lot of entrepreneurs and these guys have the highest bias for actions, right? These guys are the most biased towards just taking massive action of any entrepreneurs I've met in years. And I don't even know if that was true, but the fact that he said it made me want to make it true. So I always appreciate that he said that. And then Michael Birch, who was the founder here, original founder of Bebo, founded Monkey Inferno, hired me, named me CEO when I had no credentials to be there. Somebody who put his faith in me, that's something that, just means so much to me. It's kind of like the number one thing that drives me, honestly, is to prove him right. And so he's been a great mentor as well, just as far as seeing how somebody leads with integrity, with honesty, with, the guy's a billionaire and he's one of the most humble people you'll meet. Just somebody you'd want to kick it and have a beer with.
Okay, great. What are your 3 top secrets to launching your successful company?
Cool. I think figure out as early as humanly possible if people care about what you're building. So don't spend time on button colors and small features that are only good once you already love it. Just figure out, do people care about the core? So find the fastest way to figure that part out. Number 2 would probably be have the right team off the bat. If you get the wrong team to start with, it's almost impossible to correct. So if you don't have that for certain, if you don't have a great team right off the bat as a foundation, don't go to step 2 yet. Still fix that, because that is step 1. And then the last one I would say is just you got to know what your edge is, right? You got to know what makes you you. You got to know what's your alpha in the market. So it can be small things. Maybe it's speed. Maybe it's creativity. Maybe it's design. Maybe it's your personality. Maybe it's your backstory. You got to know what those things are. Really be conscious of it. Identify it up front, and then figure out how am I going to amplify that? How am I going to double down on my strengths? Because what most people try to do is be very well-rounded, and well-rounded gets you nowhere. I believe that you need to have a few core strengths, and those will be what makes you matter in the world. And your weaknesses are things you will plug in over time.
That's great advice. So we have aspiring entrepreneurs also listening, and they might be going through some adversities, with their startups and having some negativity. Give them some advice of how to break through adversity and negativity and keep moving forward with your business idea. Right.
So the first thing is your mindset, right? So how do you view adversity? How do you view a plateau or a dip or a roadblock or a disadvantage? I mean, we have a phrase internally, which is turn every disadvantage into an advantage. So if something happens to you, right? If we got a cease and desist letter, and okay, most people would view that as a negative. And then we thought, how do we turn this into a positive? Is there a story that comes out of this? Can we change our operations in such a way where we dramatically improve our odds of success by this one thing that others would perceive to be a negative? Because within every disadvantage, there lies the possibility for an advantage. So first thing is change your mindset where everything is an opportunity. Everything that happens to you, good or bad, is an opportunity to get bigger and better. And then the second thing is tactically. Ask the questions early, right? Ask a better question, get a better answer. The better question that I like to ask is, hey, if I was sitting around in 6 months and talking to people and they said, hey, man, what happened with Blab? That thing was cool. It didn't work out. What went wrong? What would I say? What do I think is the most likely thing that I would say 6 months from now if this thing failed? And then let me backtrack and make sure that one thing doesn't happen. Let's let it be something else, not that one thing that's obvious right now, right? Not the elephant in the room right now. And let me spend maybe
Yes.
80 to 90% of my time just focused on how to avoid or break through that one obstacle that, I know internally is the thing that's probably going to kill us.
Wow. That there's some great advice. What are some of the core values of Blab?
So doing it different. So we have a phrase internally that's different is better than better, right? Because everyone thinks they're better. Everybody thinks they're better. And what makes you better is how you're different. And so let's focus on being different every step of the way. So this morning, I was going to go change my profile to be like, why is my job title CEO? Like Chief Executive Officer. That's just like, what am I the Chief Executive Officer of? We're a startup. We're a tiny little startup. What I really am is a coach. So I'm going to change my job title to coach, right? Because everything that we do, I need to think about, how do we do it differently? Is this accurate? Is this real? Or am I just blindly following the path of what's normal and standard and expected? Because standard and expected gets you nowhere. So I would say one of our biggest core value is that different is better than better. And that focus changes how we do meetings. It changes what we put in our product, how we market ourselves, how we interact with our users, all that. It all follows on from that one principle. And then the second is like just, openness, right? Blab is an open platform. We are open with our game plan. We believe that, when the world is a little more transparent, when you break down some of the walls and let people share ideas and share conversations and share what I call your chemistry, right? We're talking to each other, and if we're laughing back and forth, that's really contagious, and people will grow attached to the relationships and the friendships and things like that you're making public what was previously just private. So I would say openness is probably one of the things that we're bringing to the world that's, not a new concept, but something we want to do right because we think it brings great change if we do it right.
Okay, great. Well, we have 10 more minutes, and I wanted to ask you, did you want to maybe bring some of these people in and ask a few questions? That would be okay with me.
Sure, let's do it. You got the seat open. Somebody call in. Let's take some questions.
Okay, so what do I do? Do I hit the lock seat button?
No, it's open right now.
Lock.
If somebody calls in, you just have to hit accept.
Accept. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Shaan? Let's see.
So there's some questions in the chat here. I'm not sure if anyone wants to jump in and join the conversation. If you do, go ahead, feel free.
I didn't want to be on your platform and not use your platform. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Embrace it, right?
Yes, sir. Okay, we have a guy named Jay. Accept. Okay. Accept. I'll hit the accept button.
All right, Jay's coming in.
Jay's coming in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I just had a question for you, Shaan. I keep hearing people bring up private Blab rooms. Is that something you guys are looking at all at this point, or no?
No. So, like I said, openness and the kind of the broadcast, the exchange of ideas is most important, and private is good, but it's limiting, and there's plenty of options for it, right? There's a gentleman in the room here who's worked extensively with Hangouts, and like Hangouts is a great tool, or Skype is a great tool for private conversations. But our difference, our reason for existence is to open up conversations and ideas, and so private doesn't really play into that right now at all.
I totally agree with it too. I'm just bringing it up for those that were asking that question. I seen somebody here ask it earlier as well, so I just wanted to ask that question.
Totally, I appreciate that. Good seeing you, Jay.
Thank you so much, Jay. We have another guy here coming in, and he can tell your name and where you're from.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey guys, this is Carlos Phoenix with the Lounge Network, and I'm following the whole progress of this Blab, and it's phenomenal. I think it's game changing for me. I think it's going to blow away Meerkat and all that stuff. So good luck with that, and I'm really excited to see what the results will be. My question is, what are you? I mean, you built such a solid platform here. and I've been using the iPhone app and on Chrome and stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out like, well, where do you go from here? Like, what's next? What more outside of the little twerks? And I know you guys are going to put the blocking on your comments and update the website and that type of stuff. But what's it going to look like in 6 months?
Sure, a great question. And last time I saw you, you were at the gym. You were blabbing from
Oh yeah.
which.
Yeah, I mean, well, to kind of so that everybody knows what you're talking about. 2 nights ago, I was working out. Conversation was amazing, and I'm like, all right, I gotta join this conversation, and I stopped pumping and totally destroyed my workout concept, and then just sat on the couch and just joined in the conversation. And I appreciate you talking to me then, and then not talking to me now. Here I'm on my studio, so it's a little bit more controllable. But
Totally. So I mean, to your question, where do we go from here? Well, one is, like I said, the size of the network should grow. So people get a bigger audience. There's more interesting people on the platform. That's more different ideas and opinions, and people covering different topics like sports and all these different categories that we're not even touching today. That people, there's tons of people in the world who are interested in it. The second thing is, let's make the product better, right? So like we have ideas for, let's say, the replay feature on how to make it where when I come in as a viewer watching the replay, the host, without ever having to edit, right? Because I'm sure, Ethan, you're going to edit your podcast, and editing takes time. And I don't think editing is fun for most people. I think they like the outcome of editing, right? They like a more polished, easy to consume product. And so we want to give them that right away. So, for example, during a blab like this, Ethan would be able to like maybe hit the star button while it's in progress, saying, "Hey, this is when Carlos jumped in. This is when Jay jumped in and asked a question."
Nice.
So at the end, now he's got these bookmarks. He doesn't need to rewatch the whole thing because we all know we hate hearing our own voice. So he just jumps straight to that star and he labels it. And now as a viewer coming in, I see, okay, cool, 42 minutes long, but I can see all the different topics they covered. The backstory, his entrepreneurship journey, question and answer, whatever. And I can jump straight to parts that are interesting, or I can say, hey, this whole thing looks interesting. Let me actually spend the 42 minutes. So a feature like that on replay, we want to do and we want to do right. Or a simple one is just stats, right? For the creator, we want to give you more insight, more transparency into how many people watched it, where were they from, who watched it, how many shares did you get, how many total people saw it, all those different, we're stat nerds ourselves. So we're going to kind of go over the top with our amount of feedback we give you as far as each blab goes. So we had a ton of features in mind. And so in 6 months, I'm hoping that we've knocked out a great deal of those.
Well, that's one of the things that I did when I built this studio was I did not want to have to do post-production. That takes a week. And so what I did was I built a studio, and it's all custom. And I built it in a way where I can do multi-camera switching. I'm using a competitor, probably Skype, to bring in my guests. And I'm switching back and forth between my camera and their camera and so on. And it's recording in real time and lower thirds and all that stuff. But this blew me out of the water. Because now, I spent maybe $5,000 building this thing. Which is not a lot for what it does. But to be able to do this, with this is mind-blowing.
Right.
And be able to still have the guests and be able to interact just like you're doing, Ethan, allowing me to join the conversation. Couldn't do that. I couldn't do that before. And this is just going to really blow what I'm trying to do out of the water. And the fact that it's just open for folks like myself and it's not costing me $1 million is insane.
Yeah.
And I wanted to thank you personally with that. No,
I appreciate that. And we had a pretty cool experience where Leo Laporte, who's been on TV for years doing This Week in Tech, he jumped on. He jumped on while he was live on his show and featured us on his show.
I think I watched it.
and what he said was pretty fun. He's like, I don't know whether to be happy or sad. He's like, I'm happy that this thing exists in the world, and you're right. The next twit will be born on a platform like this. He goes, and I'm also sad because we're spending $1 million a year producing this show, and this is pretty much you got 80% of it there for free and with push of a button. And so I think that's pretty powerful. Is like technology. What we should be doing as builders is making it so that talented people can use a tool with let's cut the cost down to nearly zero. Let's cut the skill required to navigate and use a tool like an editing tool. Let's cut that down to zero as well, right? Let's take the time and let's slash it by 1/10. So take it to 1/10 of what it is. And so if you can get skill, time, and money down, then you have a valuable company, right? Because you've changed the economics of the equation. Now, people who previously weren't doing something will participate, and I think that's the big idea.
So one thing I want to ask is, since I only met you that first time, and I was all yucky and sweaty, one thing that's fascinating me about just listening to you is how you freely express yourself. It's kind of how I approach dating. I meet the girl and I just want to be all out there, let her kind of really fall for me and that type of thing. And I think that's what this audience is really getting from you. And I think that's going to be part of the technology, is really how you're speaking passionately and how you're speaking openly and stuff. And that really is going to bring, to me, this platform to another level where I didn't feel that much from the Meerkat and the Periscopes and whatever Facebook's going to do. So I honor and respect that about you, and hopefully as this grows and you become this gazillionaire, and it'll happen. Much success. I hope to participate in a lot of it, and eventually I want to. Hopefully, I'll also get a chance to interview you as well. But Ethan, you're doing a great job. I got to start listening to your show, and I appreciate you allowing me to at least share some questions.
That's great.
But I'll let you guys go because I know you want to have some other people. And once again, thank you.
Yeah, no, great. And I want to add this because, Ethan, I think for your entrepreneurs is a good point, which is, like I said, what's your edge? How do you turn a disadvantage into an advantage? So, yeah, we're small, but that also means I can spend more time getting to know the users, right? Mark Zuckerberg, doesn't have the time, maybe not the desire, and he could not meet 1.4 billion users. So on my end, trying to take advantage of the fact that we're small and that I like doing this. I like, this is what I enjoy doing. And
yeah, between you and Furkan, I mean, you guys have been incredible. You've been great, just very open and giving to the community, and I think that's fantastic.
Great.
All right, guys. Ciao.
Okay.
Well, hi, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We will take another question.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love what you've done. I've only been on Blab for like a couple of days, but I'm finding it very addictive. I notice a lot of people are bleary-eyed. They can't get to sleep because they're so into this. Like for myself last night, I was up till like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning just blabbing away, and I loved it. But these are my questions for you. One, how would you recommend to build up my audience? Because like I started a room. I was there for a while. Nobody found me. Yes. So my question is, how do you recommend somebody to build up their audience? So when they go online, it's like maybe Vincent, where everybody, he's there, or when you go online.
Right. No, I think
that's my first.
Great question. And I think two things. One is we got to do a better job of helping users get there. Because if it's your first time and you're all excited and you push, I want to go live. And of course, you just signed up a minute ago. You're not going to have any followers. How do we help you out? So we have to come up with a way in our flow to make that easier. The second thing is just Blab is going to be kind of interesting because it's the first platform where it's not all about self-promotion. Blab is going to be collaboration. So you finding a conversation you find interesting and contributing either from the comments or jumping in like you're doing right now, you're going to get followers just from this, right? And so what I see happening, you got 29 followers right now. And so I think what's going to happen is people are going to realize that the way to build your own audience is to first collaborate with somebody else, go join their conversation, be interesting, be compelling, and then those people will follow you back. And then next time when you start one, you're the initiator, those people will come to you again. And so I think it's going to be the first network that grows that way.
Right. Well, because I have like almost 5,000 followers on Facebook. Twitter has always been a secondary thing for me. But I would always think that maybe a Blab directory would be a good idea, whereas people could register in a directory about their services, whatever. But that's something else. And that's my next question, and then I'll leave it for somebody else, is that how does someone give you an idea? Because as I look at the Blab site, I've tried to contact you guys, but all I could do is go and then it's limited on what ideas, and I have a ton of ideas. Sure. I'm gonna listen, but I'm gonna pop off the screen now.
Cool. Yeah. Great talking to you. The easiest way is just Twitter. So if my DMs are open, I don't need to follow you for you to DM me. Or you can just tweet at me publicly and say, hey, I'd love to, here's my idea, or hey, I'd love to email you. How do I get in touch? So Twitter is the best way. And Ethan, I want to be conscious of time for you. Are we good to keep going, or do you want to cap it? Or
I'm if you're okay, we can keep going. I just want to be time conscious of you.
I'm fine. I'm talking
good.
to people who are interested in my baby here, so I'm happy talking.
Okay, well, we'll definitely take a few more questions. This is going to be Nicholas coming up next, and I can have this on my podcast also, or I can edit it out.
Bonus footage
to do that.
Hey guys, hey, thank you so much.
Yes, bonus footage. Great questions though. Great questions.
I do really appreciate doing this platform. I think it's awesome how you pivoted, and from what I understand, you originally pivoted. Is that correct, from something else?
That's right. We were building something else altogether, and we pivoted it into this. And it's kind of a full backstory there, but I'll keep it short for now.
That's awesome. So my question is, how are you going to really compete with these social media like monsters out there, like Facebook and any other like startups or like Google even? What's your really initial approach to that?
Honestly, I think they should be asking how they're going to compete with us, because it doesn't take. This is not something you can just throw a bunch of money at, right? You got to be creative. Right. You got to be super hungry. You got to have time and focus on just one thing. If I'm a big company, how do I focus? How do I incentivize a group of people to work irrationally to chase something? That's something they can't do. And so I think, I tweeted this out one day, which I had this photo of like 3 guys in just like a room, and one kid's laying on his belly just typing. Another guy's in a Stanford hoodie and he looks real stressed. Another guy's drawing on a whiteboard. And I go, this photo should strike fear in the heart of the biggest tech companies in the world, because these 3 people, right? It takes only 3, 4, 5 people can actually topple and completely disrupt a big company. And they should. I don't know if they're aware of that, but this is software. It doesn't take millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. It doesn't take millions of employees or anything like that to do. A dozen people on Instagram, right? A dozen people. Instagram took the heart of Facebook and said, well, how about photos? How about we do photos better than Facebook does photos? And they took the heart of Facebook out with 12 people and sold it for $1 billion. I mean, that's unbelievable in 1 year, right? We're right about 1 year to do that whole thing. So I think the question they should be asking is, how do they keep up with all the startups that are coming for them?
Right. I think that's a great point. Real quick, I'll jump out here, but just because, like, if you look at Periscope, what they came out with, and now Facebook's trying to do the whole Facebook Live, and it's really not competing with Periscope. So I think you have a good point. You have this great community built up, and people aren't going to just leave it for another platform. So great job, man. Really appreciate it.
Great, man. If we're treating everybody better than anybody else, and our product is better than anybody else, why would they leave?
Right, exactly. Great point.
That's right.
Awesome, man. Great talking to you.
Great. Okay. So when the people get done talking, they automatically
they
go
choose.
off,
so either you as the host can boot them, and you can say, okay, great talking to you. I'm going to open up the seat for somebody else. Or they themselves right now, everybody's being very polite. So they're just saying, ask the question, and they're dropping off.
Okay. So basically I just hit the X button, and then when somebody else wants to come in, I just accept them. Oh,
it looks like you locked the seat now. Is that right?
Wow. Did I lock it? I don't know.
There you go. Now it's open.
I did lock it. Now it's open again. Okay. I'm still learning, but this is a great platform. We'll ask a few more questions if that's okay.
Thank you, everyone in the chat. By the way, I'm reading everything in the chat. I can't respond fast enough, but I'm reading.
You're multitasking. It's like multi.
One eye goes this way, one eye goes that way. It's not that attractive, but it works for Blab.
There you go.
What's going on, Daniel?
How you doing, Shaan?
Okay,
My name's Daniel from Perth, Western Australia, mate. I missed the start of it. So, are you the creator of this product, or
Blab? One of the co-founders.
Yeah, awesome, man. Nice work. Congratulations. You've done an incredible job.
And hey, everybody, shout out FPN who just joined the chat. He's one of our engineers. He's sitting right over there. He never gets any attention, and he's killing it over there. He's the one who makes sure this thing is like stable and actually works. I just talk.
Hey, I just wanted to have a quick question just about the categories, because I noticed the blog post that you brought up. You were saying that you might be bringing on some new categories. So what do you have in mind with that regard?
We're going to make it function a little differently. So we've shared the screenshot of our new homepage with some people. It's hopefully going to be going out today. That's ambitious, maybe most likely early next week. But the way we're going to do it is everybody's going to have like kind of So you can hashtag any blab with up to 3 hashtags. So this one might be hashtagged by like interview, podcast, and entrepreneurship. And so people on their homepage will be able to set up filters of what they like. I like interviews. I like entrepreneurship. I like technology. I like sports. I like whatever, right? So you will only see content that you like and that's tagged that like is good content for you. Maybe you love watching people do karaoke on Blab and that's hilarious to you and you think that's great. Like I do. I think that's great. But other people will hate that. They're saying, oh, no, I'm here for learning about, let's say, I don't know, technology. And they'll set up their filters a little bit differently. So everybody, when you sign up, will say, hey, what are you interested in? And you just kind of tap a bunch of bubbles of the topics you're interested in. And you could change that later. And as a host who's creating a Blab, I tag it with up to 3 things so that people will find the content that's interesting to them.
Awesome. So it's going to be very personalized, in other words. The home screen is going to be very personalized. Yeah, awesome.
Yes, sir. People will just rock up, as they say in Australia. People will just rock up and have a homepage that works for them.
Yeah, nice. Sounds good to me. All right, I'll jump off. Yeah, thanks heaps, and again, appreciate it.
Great meeting you, man.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Okay, and now we have Jason Horton. Jason Horton. I think he's coming on next.
Jason Horton is a pretty awesome YouTuber. He's got a huge following on YouTube. He's on Blab, and he's figuring out how he's going to make it work for him.
Okay.
I don't
did
see
he come in?
So waiting for the host to accept. You got to hit accept.
Okay. Wow. Well, he went away. It says 4 people calling in, but I wanted to get him, and
you should be able to swipe over, maybe. If not, just you can just
swipe.
Whoever's on top.
Okay, we're swiping. Trying to swipe. Oh, I see now. Everybody, I'm still new at this.
We got 32 people calling in. The switchboard's lighting up. Yeah, Jason, ask your question if you like.
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Okay, there he is. I see him now. Okay, here we go, Jason.
Hey, I'll jump out so you can grab him if this was.
Do you see what I'm seeing? The people that's
no, they don't see what you're seeing. What's up, Marcel? You got a question, man?
Yeah, real quickly, and I was just curious as to are you guys like there are a few platforms over the years that have come up similar to this. Are you guys doing some special coding or something, or is it just that you guys are just that much more brilliant than the other guys to have come to this? You know what I mean? Because over the years, like, and again, if I can I hate tossing out names, but like Spree, for example, they're not even near this, but it's similar, right? So can you speak to that real quickly?
Yeah, well, I think somebody in the chat just said it right. I think it's timing, right? Like we get the advantage. They maybe other platforms are first, but you can have the advantage of being last, right? If you get it right, if you learn from what others have done, you benefit. We got to look at Spreecast before we built this. We got to look at Periscope before we built this. So we got to build. What do they say? You stand on the shoulders of other giants. So right. I think we got the advantage of being a part of the evolution. No idea is new. It's all just an evolution or an iteration of something you've seen before, right? I've watched the TV show Around the Horn, and that gave us the idea for Feels. All these things are just you take, little pieces that you thought are really special of certain things, or something that you thought should be modified, and you just remix, right? It's a remix culture. So sometimes you get the remix right, and it feels brand new.
Okay, real quick too. What do you not want to see done on a Blab? Now, obviously, sex things but like, what's your worst idea for a Blab that you don't want to see? Because I need this information because I don't want to go there. I don't want to be that guy that makes.
Well, I don't think you'd go there, Marcel. But I think obviously for me, immediately off the bat, it's just like any kind of stuff that's really offensive, really vulgar, like complete bullying or harassment. Or anything illegal, obviously. So those are the things that worry you when you create an open platform. And hey, people from all walks of life are going to come on and do things that you can't control, and you shouldn't even try to control because it's impossible. And so you just try to build a good culture, a good immune system, and then good tools to report things after that. But that's the number one worry. But I don't think that's very likely. I think the bigger worry is just there's people like yourself who are interesting. And when you join, do you find other people who are interesting? Do you find content that's like, you know what, this is a cool vibe, right? It's like social media is a lot like a bar, right? You want to walk in, yeah, they're all serving the same drinks off the shelf, right? No bar differentiates itself by having different liquor or different beer. It's the vibe, it's the people, it's the ambiance that really changes, whether you really love a place or you kind of, it gets old and you want to go somewhere else. So we got to create that vibe, that ambiance, that set of people where it builds and just, let's keep a good thing a good thing.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Cool. What's up, Jason?
What's up? All this build up for just this. Sorry about that. So I guess there's no sex. That answered my question. That was my question.
Wait! I didn't say no sex. Actually, one of the first things that somebody, our investor, one of the first things he said when he saw this, he's like, there's going to be like porn on here, but it'll be interesting, right? Like it'll be just like a different thing.
Yeah.
And it caused us to ask an important question, which is, are we going to censor, right? Or not. And I think for us, what we want to do is, hey, let's have an open platform where people can have conversations about different things. And yes, if it's incredibly offensive, if it's hateful, if it's hurtful in those ways, we will step in. But if it's, there was a Blab the other night called "Let's Talk About Sex," and I don't know, I probably shouldn't be saying this as the guy in charge, but I found it fascinating, and it was like Howard Stern, right? It was the compelling content that was, those are things that people don't always talk about openly, and I found it interesting. And so I think that, there will be a place for not safe for work type of content on this platform eventually. If you do it right off the bat, it sets totally the wrong tone.
Right.
But hopefully we grow to a certain point. I mean, if you look at Tumblr or you look at Twitter, there's a ton of stuff on there that.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. I know you know.
You see my YouTube channel, you know.
I know you know.
I'll get this question out, and then so other people can ask questions. And I probably asked this the last time we talked, and if I didn't, I'll ask again. Scheduling the Blabs, right? Which is something, I'm going to use the M word and say Meerkat because I do like Meerkat, but I like scheduling my streams. But I like the ability. I schedule them like sometimes a slight bit later in case I want to start off earlier. And I'm going to do my podcast today, my podcast studio, having some like huge YouTube people in there, and I want to like make the most of it. So I want to like stream it, but like the scheduling thing seems a little bit kind of rigid to that time. I mean, it'll give you like it'll give you time, like once it starts, to give you time to get in there if you're a little bit late. Right. But I would like the ability to start it early if I have to, because sometimes a lot of what I do is kind of revolves around the environment and the event. So the ability to like pop it off early would be really, really cool. Is that something that's, I know it's probably not the top of your list, but do you see value in that, or do you think like just we should?
No, totally. I mean, I hit that problem every time I schedule a Blab. I have to wait for the countdown to end. I mean, that's I think we need to just start a like, hey, I'm ready, start now feature.
Yeah, because you never know when you're gonna like think life is happening and it's not on a clock. You know what I mean? So
no, totally. I'm totally with you on that.
Okay, cool. And also filters, just so I could be more handsome as usual. But I know you guys are working on that.
We're not working on that right now.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. See you guys later.
Yeah. Take care, dude. All right. Ethan, who's the host, is trying to reconnect. Not sure what's happening. Maybe his connection died. So if Ethan's not able to reconnect, we won't be able to accept any new callers. So he lost connection. All right. Should be able to refresh, Ethan, and come back in. We'll give it a minute. And if you can refresh your browser and call back in, that should be fine. Otherwise, happy to take any chat questions. All right, this person's asked a bunch of time. What inspired the purple Blab owl logo? I don't know. If you've heard the backstory of Blab, Blab came to be when we kicked out like half of our team, our like young creative team from the office, and we told them to build something they're passionate about, and they weren't allowed to talk to me or our CTO or any of the kind of like quote unquote leadership. So they actually came up with the whole concept on their own, came up with the logo, the branding, not the name. They had a terrible name called Rihanna, which is on air backwards. So that's when the logo came about, and I guess they never really questioned it. It was just thank you, Mike, for posting that blog post about the early days. It has all these screenshots of or pictures of like the whiteboards, the early day sketches of Blab. And so they created this concept of a space owl. Question. If someone asked if adding co-hosts is considered, yes, we talked about it yesterday and we figured out how we're going to do it. So we're going to add co-hosts soon. Let me scroll up, see if there was other questions. how can you have X-rated way? I shouldn't say foolproof, but the most common way to fix most problems is all you do is you literally copy paste the URL, the link of this blab. So you copy it, and then you just quit your browser and come right back into that blab. If you restart your browser, you will almost, 95% of the time it'll fix whatever issue you were having. Because what happens is it's not really on our end. It's Chrome browser will get overloaded and die, and people have like hundreds of tabs open because they're reading articles and trying to improve their life and whatnot, and that kills their browser.
He said trying to improve their lives.
I know, those pesky, self-motivated folks. Can you add some call to actions after the blab is done? No, we didn't include that intentionally because we don't want to attract all the marketers. We already got a ton of internet marketers on here, and I think they see the potential of it, but we're not going to do a whole bunch of like lead generation and buttons for them to sell things right afterwards because that would change the nature of it.
Okay. Oh, wow. Well, we've been getting some great questions. I do want to have you give me a shout out. What I usually tell my guests and everybody that's tuning in now, this is basically the Brilliant Entrepreneurs podcast, and I'm interviewing the CEO, Shaan Puri, from Team Blab. He is the CEO of Blab, and we have had a great interview for the past hour, and I allowed other people to come in and ask questions also on this great platform. And Shaan, what I usually tell the people to do is my guest is to just say, this is your name, and you're listening to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs podcast.
Cool. This is Shaan Puri, and you're listening to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs podcast. All right, hold on, try that again. Take two, doing it live. This is Shaan Puri, and you are listening to the Brilliant Entrepreneurs podcast.
Well, I thank you so much, Shaan, for this great interview. I mean, and I noticed one thing. This is very addictive.
You're addicted already, man? This is your first blab.
Yeah, but I'm doing it, and I'm just like, I don't want to get off. And I want to be, cautious of your time. I mean, I have plenty of time because right. I'm talking to you, and you're the CEO, and we're learning so much. And I have over, you'll say, how many people we have in here? 60 people in the room, and right. There's like people that want to still talk, and I'm just like, oh my God, should I get it off or should I not?
Right. Well, hey, if I say you keep talking and you talk about entrepreneurship or your podcast or podcasting with people who want to talk to you, but there was a quote early on, which we didn't use as a testimonial because obviously it was a bit much. But someone said, Blab is the syringe full of heroin, and I'm just the vein. I was like, hey, that's a pretty good compliment, but unfortunately we can't compare ourselves to heroin. So
yeah, definitely. So when you hit the record button, it records your whole thing, and you can strip the audio from this.
Yeah.
Correct?
Afterwards, you're going to get an email which says, "Hey, here's the raw audio. Here's the raw video. Here's an embed link if you just want to embed that whole thing on your blog or your website right now." And so you choose what you want to do with it. So for your podcast, you'll use the audio.
Okay, awesome. You want to take one more question?
Sure.
Okay. Let me know now, because I got the time. You're the CEO.
No, I'm the coach. I told you, changed my job title this morning.
Yes, coach. Yes, I like that. But I like your at Team Blab because you're all a team.
Exactly. More reason why I need to be the coach.
There you go. Okay, we're going to accept from this guy named Todd.
Nice. I like when
Todd
who I haven't met before, so I've never seen Todd before. What's going on, Todd?
Yo, actually, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We did speak. It was a week ago on Friday when Grant Cardone was blowing up Blab, and you let me in to ask a couple questions.
Cool.
So you hinted at it, the dreadful M word, monetization. So I'm assuming you're aggregating all the data. Are you tracking what Blabs people are spending time in, what the titles are, how it relates back to their interests, and at what point? Because at some point, somebody's going to want to make money, whether it's you selling this thing to somebody or figuring out a way to monetize it. How do you envision that going?
Good question. I get surprised how often this question gets asked. I think it's funny, people are worried about how's your business going to make money? And I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I'm surprised whenever it comes up. But to answer your question, We are not tracking that data right now. We should be, just so that we can show you better content. So if you always listen to blabs about cooking, then we should show you more cooking blabs, but we're not doing that yet. As far as monetization goes, I don't know what it will be. Our focus is basically for the next long while, like we got to grow the audience. So like Blab on any given day should be bigger than the biggest television network or television channel that's out there. Hopefully we're bigger than the total set of people watching television. That's kind of how big it could go. I mean, people right now, on average, the average Blab user, and this takes into account people who just come in and say, hey, this is stupid. The average Blab user is on for 63 minutes a day, which is insane. And so we said, okay, we're going to have an audience who is paying attention to video. So video is pretty easy to monetize, actually, because video ads are the highest, in-demand commodity in advertising. I think advertising is probably the right bet. So rather than charging people to use Blab or the creators or the audience, because that kind of limits it, how do we make it where we advertise, and maybe not in an intrusive way? So maybe if you're there live, there's no ads, right? Or maybe it's a sponsored thing that's kind of in the here this Blab right now about entrepreneurship is brought to you by MailChimp or something like that. But what I want to do is figure out how can we make it where the hosts or the creators make money when we make money. So like ideally, I mean, Ethan, you know this from having a podcast. You're right now, you got to go sell yourself, right? You got to go say, hey, I have this many people who listen to my podcast. What is it worth to you to have 10,000 listeners or 5,000 listeners, whatever someone has? And that's not a very big number for most advertisers, so they don't get much money. What we want to do is sell the aggregate and say, hey, Nike, what's it worth to you to advertise for 15 seconds on the replay of a Blab to people who are, males 18 to 34 who love sports because they're watching Blabs about sports? And so what we will do is find some way to monetize that, not intrusive, gets everybody who's creating good content paid, and we get paid because bandwidth is expensive.
Yeah, makes sense. Hey, love what you're doing. Thanks again for letting me in.
Yeah, good talking.
Have a good night. Hopefully Cardone doesn't crash your site tonight again.
Yeah, that's good. He's stress testing it.
Good problem to have, though.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Can you hear me, Shaan?
I can hear you.
Okay, so when he's talking, can you hear me also? Can everybody hear everybody?
Yeah, everybody can hear everybody. I mean, if two people are talking at the same time, it's a little hard to hear, but because it kind of mutes one person when another person talks. But yeah, no, you're not silent. You're not muted when somebody else is talking.
It's not like the Google. I think Google Hangout does that when somebody starts talking, then the other gets muted.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that. It slightly lowers one person's volume if another talks so that you can hear.
Okay. So when you're talking in the background, say for instance, a fire truck going by somebody's house, and you're talking to somebody, you're not going to hear that fire truck if you've accepted them in, correct?
I didn't understand your question. If the fire truck goes by like it just did, what happens? Everybody hears the fire truck.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 4 people on. We have 4 people on here already accepted, or everybody's accepted. You got 4 people on here, and then somebody has a lot of noise in their background. Are you going to be hearing that if I'm having a conversation?
You can hear
with
it,
you?
but so in the bottom left of your square, you see a little speaker. You can just mute yourself if you have a lot of background noise.
Okay, I totally understand that. Okay, all right. How are we doing on time?
We're doing good. Let's take one more question.
Okay, we're going to take one more question, and it's from Larry. Let's accept Larry.
I'll answer Tony in the chat here as well. As the platform grows, are you concerned about cell bandwidth once Blab goes viral? Nope, not my problem. So the cell networks will have to deal with it. Most people are using a ton of data right now anyways. Blab works best on Wi-Fi, so I recommend that just so that the connection is really clear and the conversation flows freely. But I think technology like cell service and signal and speed gets so much better and better every year that that'll solve itself. I think that problem will solve itself. And we're not the only ones doing streaming video. So YouTube, Netflix, all these companies, it's in their best interest for the internet speeds and cell service to get faster and better.
I have a quick question, Shaan.
Hello, Larry.
Hey, how you doing? Good.
Doing wonderful. What's your question? Where are you from, and what's your question?
I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I came in on the tail end when Shaan was talking about getting brands to probably monetize like a couple seconds of a show, so to speak, a Blab show. So if I do my cooking or my cocktail stuff here, I could. It's a strong possibility we could get brands to participate in and pay for slot times.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what I'm saying is eventually we will do that job for you. So like we will have the sales team that goes out and convinces the big brands to come pay. And then we say, hey, whatever, pick your favorite food company, so, whatever, some vodka company, Grey Goose, they want to advertise on your show, Larry. So we'll just present that to you as, hey, here's an option if you want to advertise or whatever, right? We'll find ways. So what I'm saying is we don't know the answer yet. So what I'm giving you is my best guess.
Okay.
But one of my best guess is that we can do a lot of that sales work for you, and even just serving up the ad for you. But there's also, I mean, stars like yourself, you're gonna be able to say, hey, right now, today, I can get somebody to sponsor my show. And great, I think you should do that. I mean, I'm happy when people make money so they can put more effort into producing great content.
Okay, but I like the idea of you doing the heavy lifting for for people who don't have.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm really talented, I may not be the best salesperson. And also my show alone may not be enough to attract the interest of a bigger brand.
Exactly.
But the aggregate, the network is what will have such a big number where you will get all the biggest dollars, people who are willing to spend freely on the platform.
Okay, good. I would like to pursue that with you privately so we can, formulate a plan or something.
Sure. I mean, just so you know, we're probably like years away from monetizing. So we have to get the numbers bigger.
No, but if I can get some brands interested like now, because
Okay.
I'm talking to some people right now, and if I could get like the people who are doing the mixed show,
Yeah.
that's a brand. It's a
All
small
right.
brand, but it's a brand.
All right, Larry, we'll talk.
We'll talk.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Shaan, for this great interview, and everybody that has asked questions on the interview. And tell everybody, of course, you can go to the Blab platform, but where they can reach you on your social media platforms and how they can contact you if they have questions.
So sure. So you can reach me personally on Twitter at Shaan SHAAN VP. So SHAAN VP. That's my handle. And then, of course, you can go to blab.im. Blab.im is where you'll find all the good stuff that we were talking about today.
Again, thank you so much, Shaan, for this great interview. And thank you also for allowing us to bring in everybody and go over our time on this great interview. But we'll definitely get this edited up and you'll be on the season 2 of the Brilliant Entrepreneurs podcast. We got some major heavy hitters on season 2, including you. And we're looking forward for Blab to become a $1 billion company. Right? We know it will be. Yes. All right. Take care, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, give
I'll
me
be in
some
contact
love, man.
with
Give
you.
the man some feels. Great interview. Great podcast.
Yes. Thank you for give me some feels, love.
Cool.
Feels.
All right, Ethan. Great talking to you,
yes. dude. Okay. Thank you so much, man. Take care.